Hey guys, this is just one guy, and this is my tutorial series, Unity for Noobs. Now, in today's tutorial, we're going to do part 2 of the networking series where I teach you how to use Unity's new animation system. In this episode, we're going to separate our characters so we only control one character, and we're going to animate our character. I was going to do it in 2 episodes, but it was so simple that I decided to put it in one. Okay, let's get started. Now, I believe in our last episode, we created the prefab for the online player and the offline player. And what I've done, see, I added this new script called Player Network Manager. I don't think I did anything different than that, but let me check just to see. No, I don't believe I did anything different than that. So let's go over the script. Okay, I changed up a little. I remember what I did now. I changed up a little bit of stuff in the regular controller for our player. Let's open that script so we can look at that too. Just believe it's this one. Yeah. As usual, mono development is being slow. Okay, first let's go over this player network script. Now it's important to note that to use the networking, the networking API. Come on, I hate when mono development do this. It's always slow. And now it doesn't want to switch, of course. Let's try and open up that script again and see what happens. Still doesn't do it. Mono development. Okay. Now it's important. What the hell is going on? Okay, it's important to note that when you use the networking system, they use the networking API, it doesn't come from mono development. You have to access a different behavior, the networking behavior. And so in JavaScript it'll look like this. We have to import the networking functions, and then we have to access the networking class. And I've created this new class called Player Networking Manager. Now, when you download the script, it's important that you name the script the same thing, or it won't work. And then it's extending the networking behavior, and we have to put networking behavior. I believe the C# one will be different, but this is how it works in JavaScript. Now, first we have the main camera. This is a reference to our main camera, so we can, if it's not ours, we can turn it off. And right here, this is how we tell if it's our player or the other player on another network. We just use the is local player. Now, if you can see right here, we're saying if it is our player, then I got a variable in a third-person controller over here, which I created called is mine. Now, this will be familiar if you use the old networking system, but what this allows us to do is tell if the player is ours, but in a different script. Because since this derives from the networking class and not mono behavior, we couldn't call this is local player in this script. So this makes it so we can basically tell in this script is the player ours or not. Now that's the first thing. We access this and we tell the third-person controller script that it is our character if it is our local player. Else we turn if it's not our player, we turn the camera off, and we turn the camera off on that game, and we turn the audio listener off, so we don't have 2 cameras and 2 audio listeners. And then we say it isn't our character. That way we know which character is ours, and that'll separate the movement out. Now next, in the update function, this is controlling the animations. Now this is how you send and receive animations over the network. And what this does, it works with the let me go and get it. The network animator, which is a component you'll have to have on. Now it's important to note, in order, well, I might as well explain this first since I'm gonna get into it. We have the two components: the network transform and the network animator. Now this network transform is basically how we tell where the character's at. We're not syncing up the transform position. We're just tracking the rigid body, and what we're going to be is tracking the top down Y. Because we could track the X, Y, and Z, but you won't need all that. All you'll need to track is the Y position. And then we click, this isn't going to be clicked. So click sync the angular velocity, and what that's going to do is sync the rotation. Now I have it set to high. You can set it to whatever you want. Right here, this network send rate, this controls how fast it updates. So if your game if your game is tracking a character kind of slowly, you might want to turn this up. I just left it set to 9, but if you find it is laggy, you can always turn it up and it'll update faster. The rest of these I really haven't got a chance to really get into. That was all I really needed. Then we have this next component, the network animator. And what you'll do is you'll take your animator and drag it in right here, and it'll track the animations. You don't have to do anything else other than that. Now this is important to note that it wasn't in the documentation, and it took me almost a half an hour to figure out when I was doing this. But the network transform has to be above the network animator, because it has to update the transform first and then the animator. Otherwise, your character, you won't be able to move your character around. It won't update on the other game. It'll update for the client, but not the server. So just remember, always have the network transform above the network animator. Okay, let's finish going over the script. Right here we say if it is our player in our game, what we want to do is update the animations. Now you might ask, how does it tell which animations to update? Now if you go into the animator, we have these right here, and each of these are assigned a number from 0 to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, from 0 to 6. Now most of these we won't need to update. We probably update the crouch, and we need to update the forward and the turn, controlling how much the character goes forward. We're updating that. We're sending that var over the network, and we're sending the rotation var over the network for the turn, so it can play the turn animations. And you'll probably want to update its crouch, but how you tell what there is it has numbers from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and as you can see, we're accessing it with the transform get component network animator, and then it's the get parameter auto send 1 and 0. And that means what we're doing, we're getting the values for the if it's our local game, like say we're the server, we're getting the values from the server for these two animations. Oops, sorry, wrong one. And then we're sending them over the network, and if it isn't our player, we want to receive that data. So what we do is we go transform get component network animator, set the parameters, so you get it if it is your player, it's not your player. And what it does is it gets the local values of your animator animations, and then it just sends it over the network, so all the players update immediately. It's a much simpler system than before. And if you wanted to update all the animations exactly, I guess you will put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, because you can see the numbers at the end of these. Oh, sorry. The numbers at the end of these. And I forgot what the true is, but I just set it to true. But this will all be commented out, just so you know. This is how you update the animations over the network now. And I find it a much better and simpler system. Oops, sorry. Now, let's see what else we got. Now we have the third-person controller, and as I said before, we set up this variable is mine, so we can tell is it our local player, even in a non-networking script. And the only thing I've done, since this controls all the button inputs, I just put in the update function, if it is mine, then we want to track the input. If it isn't mine, then we're just going to do nothing. And I did it down here in the fix update too. If it's mine, accept the input, or else nothing. And I believe that's it. Got the player networking class. That's another thing. Normally you wouldn't, well, in JavaScript at least, you wouldn't be able to put a class script on a game object, but the network player script, as long as it's accessing that class, it will go on a player. So that script actually does go on a player. And the networking components, we have our network identity, we have the player network manager, which is the script we created. It's important to note that that's another thing I had to go over, I almost forgot. Now, since we're making a prefab, and since we're creating online players, and each player will have their own main camera, I've made the main camera. Let me just drag it in here. I've made the main camera a child of our online prefab player. So in that way, and in script, I have up here. That's third-person controller. You can see that I've deparent the controller as soon as the game starts. So when the game starts, it deparents the camera, and that's just so every player can have their own camera, and the camera doesn't need to be in the scene. So you just make the main camera a child of the player. And before I went over the smooth bumper and everything like that, and so you should have that all set up before. If you don't know how to set up the camera, I believe it's 2 videos back that I did that already. So just make sure it was nothing else I did. I'm syncing the rigid body too, so you can see it lets you choose what you want to sync up. Now, if you're not using physics in your game and you're just trying to sync the position, I recommend you just sync the transform. But just to keep it safe, I sync the rigid body 3D. And I've changed this to be 199. I don't think it matters, but you can change it if you want. And I don't think I did anything else. Just check. I'm just trying to make sure I don't miss out on nothing. Oh, in the rigid body, I've frozen rotation. The X, Y, and Z position, I froze that. Yeah, I believe that's it. And at the end, you should end up with something like this. Let me just go and get the game. Let's open up another one. And we're going to play online. This one's going to be the host. Play online. This one should be the client. And you can see we're controlling our own character now. The animations are updating. And that's it. Now my characters are moving a bit slow, and that's just because of my computer. But if you wanted it to move faster, then on that transform thing, you would just set the send rate to be a little bit faster. And that's it. I really like Unity's new animation system. It's not that much work, and it's easy to work with. Not that much scripting, if you know how to use it. And now we have our characters online. Everything updates. And that's it. And if you like this video, please like and subscribe. And if you want to suggest a tutorial, please suggest a tutorial in the comments down below. Thank you for watching.